is Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening. It's a Friday evening on ZFM Sport, everybody. That means it's our preview show. Gonna be a good one. Mike Madoda is here. Chris Midzi is here. Sean Tafirinyika, our producer. He puts it all together in the background. He's here too. And of course, my name is Barry Manandi. On the home front today, the Chevron's poor record against Afghanistan in T20 internationals continued today as Zimbabwe went down by 45 runs in the second T20 international at the Sheikh Zayed Cricket Stadium. In international sports news, Six Nations action sees Adam Beard return to start in the second row as Wayne Pivac makes just one change for Wales' tilt at the Grand Slam against France in Paris.
We'll have more international sports news for you when we take you around the world in 60, starting off in India, where Surya Kumar Yadav's eye-catching 50 and his maiden international knock paved the way for India's 8-run series-leveling win over England in the 4th T20 International in Ahmedabad. In Russia, athletes in track and field will be allowed to compete internationally again under a neutral flag as their national federation edges closer to having its long-standing doping suspension lifted. And in news from the United States, UFC President Dana White says Khabib Nurmagomedov has 100% officially retired from MMA.
Don't miss out on our play of the day. Today is Fire Friday. We'll get the party started right here on your favorite sports show. Before we get into the beautiful game, plenty of big games we can expect over the weekend, but we'll start the beautiful game by doing a wrap of Europa League action last night. Jose Mourinho and Tottenham Hotspur knocked out by Dinamo Zagreb. Manchester United, good win over AC Milan at the San Siro. We'll also give you the draw that was done earlier this afternoon of both the Europa League quarterfinals as well as the big one, the UEFA Champions League, which has served up a repeat of last season's final as Bayern Munich take on PSG in what should be a testy quarter-final. We'll get into England, not for the league, but for cup action, and Manchester City's pursuit of an unprecedented quadruple will continue tomorrow as they travel to Goodison Park to take on Everton in the quarter-final. There's also plenty of football elsewhere as PSG face Lyon in Ligue 1. The Soweto Derby is upon us, and that is in the DStv Premiership, and we'll give you the fixtures out of the Bundesliga as well as La Liga.
But first is our Fire Friday Power Play. Here's Juicy. It's featuring DJ Tira and Prince Bulo. It's number 1.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
You can catch us in cyberspace, as they used to call it. Now they just call it social media. We are there on every single platform. It is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Wherever you look, you'll find at ZFM Sport. Why don't you like, follow, and interact with that handle. We're also on YouTube, where you can listen to back editions of the show. In our individual capacities, at Mike Madoda, at Chris Midzi, at Sean Tafirinyika, and at Barry Manandi. Let's get after it. We're talking cricket. We're talking the Chevrons, to be absolutely specific. Now, their poor record against Afghanistan in T20 internationals continued today as Zimbabwe went down by 45 runs in the second T20 international at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi. The Chevrons were dismissed for 148 runs, chasing a target of 194 to suffer their 11th loss to Afghanistan in 12 T20 international meetings. Zimbabwe's defeat also gave the hosts an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match T20 international series. Tale of the tape. Afghanistan batting first, 193 for the loss of 5 wickets. Karim Janet with 59 runs. Usman Ghani with 49. Blessing Mzarabani, the pick of the Zimbabwe bowlers, 2 for 44. Zimbabwe in response, 148 all out. Ryan Burr with a plucky 40. Donald Tiripano, 24. Rashid Khan, the nemesis of Zimbabwe, 3 for 30. Afghanistan winning, of course, by 45 runs. Doesn't make very good reading. In fact, Mike, it makes for very grim reading.
Yeah, very disappointing, Barry. And once again, it's a defeat where all round Zimbabwe was poor. You take a look at our bowling, we didn't do enough to limit the scoring of the Afghan side. Them getting to 193 for 5 meant that we were always behind the 8 ball in this game. And then you take a look at the batting effort. We lost wickets at regular intervals. At the start, we were 3 down for 27 runs, and then 4 down for 44, 5 down for 56, which made our task doubly difficult. And when you take a look at our batting effort again, no partnerships. The only one significant partnership was between Ryan Burr and Mutumba, and that was 62 runs, which came in the middle order, in the middle passage of this game. It gave us a bit of hope, but once those two departed, we were always going to lose this game, and in the end, we lost it handsomely by 45 runs.
Yeah, and it goes down to the same issue we've been talking about. In fact, we talked about it during the test matches, Chris, and now we're talking about it in the T20 internationals. Discipline with the bat, being able to pick your shots, albeit in T20 internationals, you have to open up, you have to explode, but you can still pick the right shots with the bat. And then having the discipline to bowl in the right areas, given that we don't have a frontline spinner for this series, certainly the pacemen need to bowl in the right areas and have the discipline. Richard Ngarava, having a good game, and then given the ball for the last over, and his discipline was absolutely shocking. His first ball, no ball, which then gave the Afghans a free hit for 4.
Yeah, and it's a little bit disappointing. We'd think that as we got further along in this series that the chevrons would be learning as we go, but that's not necessarily what's taking place here, especially when it comes to the discipline that you talked about, and especially when it comes to the discipline of our bowlers. Going into this T20, I think there was a bit of expectations that our bowlers would be able to step up, that we'd be able to limit that scoring, but unfortunately that's not what happened in this case. And when we got the bat as well, we never really, besides that partnership that Mike talked about, we never really put up a mighty effort. If you take a look at how Afghanistan was scoring, Karim Janat 59, Usman Ghani 49, so there was regular big scoring from the Afghanistan side, so we were never able to mount a significant challenge because of that lack of discipline, especially for me, coming in terms of our bowling effort.
Was that total always going to be a challenge, Mike? 193 is no mean feat, especially in T20 international. So we put ourselves behind the 8 ball straight away when we let Afghanistan get away from us.
Yeah, I think the first game told us that, Barry. That's where we get our answer, because they put up a similar score and we weren't able to get there. We weren't able to chase it down. So once they got to 193, it was going to take 2 big performances from our top order batsmen to get us close. And even then, we were not going to be guaranteed victory, because they've got some classy operators. I mean, the likes of Rashid Khan. There's a guy who is perhaps the most priced ticket in T20 cricket in the world, you know, playing in the IPL, playing in the Big Bash. There's a guy that any team in the world would want in their ranks, and he picked up 3 wickets, so we were up against him. We needed a really brisk start, but we didn't, because we lost 4 wickets for 44, 5 wickets for 50 odd runs, and we were playing catch up all the time, and we just didn't have the power lower down the order to clear the ropes, because when you're chasing 193, you've got to clear the ropes regularly. Yep. Barry, you got to get over the ropes, your 6s, your 6 count, and I just making just a brief check, Barry, in terms of our 6 count. We only hit 4 6s. Okay,
not good
and
enough.
That was Ryan Burr, who hit 3 6s, and Donald Tiripano 1 6. So if you take a look at our top 6 batsmen, none of them managed to hit any sixes. And then those top 6 batsmen, in terms of the 4 count, Barry, they only managed to hit 10 fours. Let's compare this to Afghanistan in terms of their hitting power. Afghanistan was able to hit 11 sixes in total in this game. And if you take a look at the 4 count, Barry, they were able to get close to 20. And that's the difference. In T20 cricket, your hitting power, your ability to get past and over the rope is what wins you games.
You're wondering where the runs came from and where the runs beat Zimbabwe? Well, you got it right there. The ability to clear the rope. Sean Williams looking for all sorts of answers. Today he used 7 bowlers. 7 bowlers. Trying to find answers to Afghanistan. Could find none. Zimbabwe going down by 45 runs in this T20 International, losing the series. But we wrap up the series and hopefully play for pride tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZFM Sport. Z.
Right, let's give you some local sports news, starting with golf, where informed golfer Robson Chinoi continued with his fine form after yesterday's opening round of the Kenya Open. Chinoi and compatriot Scott Vincent are 2 of the few African players who are featuring in the European Tour core-sanctioned tournament on the Safari Tour. The tournament will open Kenya's first European Tour doubleheader with the Savannah Classic, set for next week at the Curran Country Club. Chinoi, who finished the opening round on 4 under par, was tied in 11th place at close of play. In athletics news, the National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe, the NAAZ, has opened registration for the National Open Championships that will take place at White City Stadium next Saturday. Entries will close next Wednesday, and registration is on a first-come, first-serve basis. Once the maximum number of entries is reached, no further entries will be entertained. Let's wrap it up with news out of the Kasulaga Premier Soccer League, the top tier of domestic football in the land. The Premier Soccer League's plans for the resumption of football are in motion, according to reports, with clubs expected to submit registration details as well as the provisional players retainers list. The PSL, which will open its office on the 1st of April, had set the 28th of February as the club's registration deadline, but following uncertainty, the league relaxed, and today was the deadline day for submission of teams' databases. The PSL's Chief Executive Officer, Kennedy Ndebele, said following an announcement on the resumption of sporting activity, they have already started putting in place modalities for football to return without fans. Does it concern you, Barry, that the PSL office is only opening on the 1st of April?
Yeah, that's a little bit odd, because I can't see why they were unable to work remotely and carry on. Work is what we do, not where we go. So 1st of April is a bit late.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZFM. We are Z-Team on ZFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Now let's go to Paris, where Adam Beard will return to start in the second row as Wayne Pivac makes just one change for Wales' tilt at the Grand Slam versus France. Pivac has opted for continuity other than Beard's return, meaning Alan Wynne-Jones, the skipper, Ken Owens and Thomas Francis make up the front row, while Josh Navidi and Justin Tuperich, as well as Taulupe Faletau, are the formidable looking back row. Let's hear from Wales coach Wayne Pivac.
Yeah, look, we think Adam's been playing well up until the rest last week. He's a big man. We're up against some big men. I think he's done a great job running the line out, as Corey did in the game against Italy. So it's just a switch for these two. And Corey obviously has played well in the games where he's come off the bench as well, added real impact. So we'd like that combination to continue.
Z.
Well, the Dragons of Wales could see themselves clinching a second Grand Slam in 3 years, although they could still win the title even in defeat, depending on other conditions and results elsewhere. Notably, of course, France's rescheduled encounter versus Scotland, which will be played at a later date. Barry Menandi, how do you see this one playing out in Paris?
Absolutely, Mike. And you look at it, that stat you read out, the fact that Wales is looking at clinching their second Grand Slam in 3 years, just shows how much Wales have flown under the radar, but have done their business consistently and are a fantastic rugby side. And for me, I wouldn't rule them out. I wouldn't consider them an outside bet, certainly for the tournament, because I think that's almost sealed. But to clinch the Grand Slam, I think they are also a good bet because they're efficient, they're hardworking, and very talented.
Chris, Adam Beard is the only change, and the team, of course, looking more or less the same team that we've been seeing week in, week out. What does Beard bring into this Welsh matrix?
I think definitely continuity in terms of the squad as a whole, but also I think it's important in terms of his size and his weight. He'll be able to bring something a little bit different that makes Wales have the ability to match France's forward pack in terms of size and weight. And also I think that reflection in terms of the whole team, that consistent selection, I think Wales is in a very comfortable space. They find themselves somewhere where they're able to name pretty much the same squad, and you have pretty much a lot of trust in that particular squad that are able to do the job.
Chris has brought up the issue of France and their big pack, Barry. They have a lot of big guys, even amongst the back line as well. You know, they go with a lot of guys who, yes, they may be mobile, but they bring also a lot of strength, and they bring in a lot of weight. How important will be the kicking game of Dan Biggar and Gareth Davis in this game?
It's gonna be critical. I think that the competitiveness at the breakdown, the ability to convert the various set piece opportunities that are going to arise in this game, and arise as a result of just how France plays. They're very physical. They front up, means that when you get the opportunities, you need to then take them. Dan Biggar has been Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistency, and he's going to be called upon to do exactly the same job in this game, and I suspect that he will, and that's going to get Wales keeping that scoreboard pressure on a front side that's got to win the territorial battle first against Wales before they can even think about enforcing their game plan over the Dragons.
And of course, if France dominate in the territory, then it means the importance of Dan Biggar will be underlined, because you'll have to turn them around with some good and accurate kicking for the Welsh Dragons. It's an interesting match. They also have the likes of number 14, their right winger, Louis Rees-Zammit, one of the most exciting prospects in world rugby at the moment. He's scoring tries for fun, but they also have experience, and I think that's where, Chris, they probably edge it over France. Now, France has got unbelievable talent, but I read somewhere some stat that was saying that Wales captain Alun Wyn Jones has got more caps as an individual than the entire pack of France. So that experience that Wales has in the team could come in handy in the pressure moments.
Oh, definitely. It'll definitely come in handy in the pressure moments. I think a lot of the times, especially in Six Nations, managing to get these wins is to do with that experience, to do with the squad who knows what to do in high pressure scenarios. And that only comes with experience. It's something you learn over time. That France squad, very young, they have a brilliant team that they're able to play well. But when you come into a high pressure scenario, when it's time to get over the line and to win, I think that experience is what gives France the edge, especially in this matchup.
Barry, you've talked about France wanting to get the edge as far as territory is concerned, and that's mainly because they want to launch out and attack. We expect to see an attacking game from France, because they know that they have to score a bonus point try, or at least prevent Wales from getting a bonus point in defeat, if they're to give themselves a chance of pipping them to the post in terms of the race for the Six Nations Championship.
Enter the word that you and Chris have been discussing, which is the pressure. So you've got France who are under pressure to keep the scoreboard ticking, get that bonus point victory. for me, what that's going to create is it's going to create space for Wales to operate, regardless of the territorial stakes, but also it's going to result in mistakes. And those mistakes, I feel that because of the experience of Wales is going to be able to capitalize on the mistakes that will be made by France. I think their discipline is going to be a key component of all of this, on the basis that you don't want to concede too much of the ball to Wales. Like you said, this is a talented back line, a formidable front line of Wales. So you've got to make sure that when you have the ball, you use it effectively and you play your rugby in areas where you're going to be dangerous on the Wales defence.
And if they're going to be dangerous, their scrum half, one of the most exciting players in world rugby at the moment, Antoine Dupont, is going to have to come up with a very big performance. Gael Fickou as well is key, as is Virimi Fakatawa, bringing in a lot of power and cutting edge to the French midfield. So that is the big game in the Six Nations Championship this weekend. A game that could decide the Six Nations title, whether it'll go in the hands of Wales or France. It could also decide whether Wales bag a second Grand Slam in 3 years. There's also action in the Southern Hemisphere. Super Rugby Aotearoa fixtures in New Zealand. It's the Hurricanes taking on the Chiefs at the Cape Town in Wellington. Both teams in need of a first victory of the season. Then there's the big one in the early hours of Sunday. It's the Blues taking on the Crusaders. Two teams that have been exciting their fans and two teams with the realistic prospects of winning the competition outright. That game will be played at the National Stadium in New Zealand, Eden Park. There was also action in Australia this morning. The Rebels beating the Waratahs 33-14. Good victory for the Melbourne side. And then the second encounter from Super Rugby AU will be played tomorrow. It's Queensland taking on Perth. It's the Reds versus Force.
Hi, I'm JC Krill, Springbok and Blue Bulls backline player. You are listening to ZFM Sports.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We took off in India where Surya Kumar Yadav's eye-catching 50 in his maiden international knock paved the way for India's 8-run series-leveling win over England in the 4th T20 International in Ahmedabad. Surya Kumar marked his second cap with a sparkling 31-ball innings that, together with contributions from Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant, lifted India to 158 for 8 despite a career best of 4 for 33 from fast bowler Jofra Archer. India and England face off in the 5th and final T20 International tomorrow afternoon, with the T20 International Series tied at 2-2. We'll head over to Russia, where athletes in track and field will be allowed to compete internationally again under a neutral flag as their national federation edges closer to having its long-standing doping suspension lifted. The World Athletics Council voted to revive the authorized neutral athlete scheme, which can grant individual exemptions from the suspension after vetting the athlete's drug testing record. As before, there will be a cap of 10 for the Olympics. And we'll touch on the United States, where UFC President Dana White says Khabib Nurmagomedov has 100% officially retired from MMA. Nurmagomedov, who is undefeated in 29 fights, first announced his retirement after successfully defending his lightweight title against Justin Gaethje last October at UFC 254. In his time with the UFC, he recorded notable wins over Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Rafael Dos Anjos.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZFM Sport.
Our dive into the beautiful game on Fridays is usually a preview of what you can look forward to the weekend, and today is no different, but our preview starts with a review of the Europa League, where Jose Mourinho said Dinamo Zagreb won the Europa League last 16 tie against Tottenham on attitude, claiming his team, quote, didn't bring to the game not just the basics of football, but the basics of life. It was a horrible evening in Croatia, with Spurs throwing away a 2-0 first leg lead to lose the last 16 tie 3-2 on aggregate in the second leg, thanks to an inspired hat-trick by Mislav Osic. Here's Mourinho.
Before the game, I told the players to play to win. I told the players to refuse a feeling of if we draw or if we lose 1-0 or 2-1 is okay. So by surprise, the players were not caught. Dinamo attitude, I believe, is humble, is desire, is motivation, is pride. To be a professional, you must have attitude every day and every minute of every game. Then more talent, less talent makes a difference between players. But what is never negotiable is that attitude, and they beat us on attitude. Of course, concerns me. My position as head coach is the position that stops me to go deep on analyze. But I believe that all of us, we have to be humble enough to accept any critic that you can make of our work.
Z. Blimey, Mike, what a shock result in that, in truth, we all looked at this time, we thought to ourselves, yeah, fine, Spurs was going away, but they should be able to close it out, given the quality on the field of play. Credit to Dinamo Zagreb.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. 2-0 lead from the first leg, played at the Tottenham Stadium in North London. You're going away to Dinamo Zagreb. They are hardly the aristocrats of European football. You've got a team that has got the likes of Harry Kane, the likes of Ndombele, you've got the likes of Eric Dyer, seasoned internationals who are playing football at a very competitive level in the English Premier League. You'd have thought that even if Tottenham had an off day, they could go to Croatia, maybe lose the game, but certainly not be knocked out of the competition. They were expected to be in the draw earlier this afternoon, but they find themselves knocked out comprehensively 3-0. And for them to fail to score on the night, This is a failure of monumental proportions, and I can understand Mourinho questioning the attitude of his players because he can't lace up the boots and go on in there and play for the team. There are certain results where you take a look and you say, okay, it can't be the coach who's getting it wrong. Yeah. It's got to be the attitude and the approach of the players, and this is one such game.
Yeah, and you can't argue with Mike, Chris. Well, you may want to, but certainly I can't argue with Mike on the basis that if you look at this, the very tenets of how Mourinho sets up his sides, the way we know that Mourinho plays is with a very tough, stoic, tight defense. To be breached 3 times by Dinamo Zagreb has got to be down to the players, because we've seen Tottenham play with that tight defense, that ability to counter-attack and destroy you, but at the back they're solid. So this is on the players, surely.
This is definitely on the players. Mourinho's not one to want to concede, and like you said, he sets up the team intentionally so that they don't concede goals. And throwing away a 2-0 lead in the first leg, I think, is just evidence of the fact that this was the players. This was not necessarily Mourinho himself, because this is exactly the same team that managed to get that win against the same team. So it's I think the players here need to really take a long, hard look at themselves. And Jose Mourinho, I'm not sure what he's going to do, but this is definitely not on him.
And the one thing, Barry, that really betrays the wrong attitude displayed by the players is a social media post by Joe Hart, where he posted "job done" after the 3-0 defeat to Dinamo Zagreb, meaning that he wasn't even watching this game. He just assumed when he saw the 3-0 result come over that it was Spurs that had actually done the job over Dinamo Zagreb. So it shows you that mentally the players weren't clued on or switched on to what they were doing in this encounter. They took it for granted that they had done a splendid job in the first leg, that they were going to get over the line in the second leg. Joe Hart, yes, was not part of the travelling party, but I'm just saying, players talk. They interact in training in the build-up to these big games. And obviously the attitude was certainly wrong amongst the Tottenham Hotspur players.
You're so right, Mike. And I didn't understand what you were saying initially because I was like, how can Joe Hart tweet job done? Was that after the first leg? Or no? Yeah. But then when you said it was after the second leg, then that's absolutely criminal because and you're right, it betrays the attitude and character of the players and what the conversations were at training in preparation for this game. It was about, guys, we've done the job, let's go and just finish it off. And he didn't even bother to look at which team had scored the 3 goals. Shocking for Tottenham Hotspur. I hope the hierarchy at Tottenham Hotspur sees it our way and don't make rash decisions because they may just do that. All right, the rest of the round of 16 results out of the Europa League. Olympiacos winning against Arsenal 1-0, but it wasn't enough to carry them through because Arsenal still won that tie 3-2 on aggregate. And we talked about Dinamo Zagreb going through on a 3-2 aggregate scoreline over Spurs. It was Granada that progressed in their tie against Molde, albeit on the night. Last night, they lost 2-1, but it ended 3-2 on aggregate. 3-2, a popular scoreline. Well, Roma bucked the trend and beat Shakhtar Donetsk 2-1 last night, winning 5-1 on aggregate and progressing to the next round. Manchester United, 1-0 winners at the San Siro over AC Milan. Fantastic ball, Pogba, a goal being the difference. That tie ending 2-1 in favor of the Red Devils of Manchester. And then Slavia Prague 2-0 winners over Rangers, meaning that tie ended 3-1 in favor of Slavia Prague. Villarreal progressed courtesy of a 4-0 aggregate scoreline over Dynamo Kiev. 2-0 it was on the night. And then Ajax 2-0 winners on the night over Young Boys, and 5-0 on aggregate. Ajax progressing very easy style over Young Boys.
Hi, my name is Ovidi Karuru, Zimbabwean player. You are listening to ZFM Sport.
Well, those results leading to the Europa League draw that was held earlier this afternoon. And here are your quarterfinal fixtures. Granada will take on Manchester United. No doubt Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be pleased with that draw. He could have got tougher teams. Arsenal will take on Slavia Prague. Another decent draw for the Gunners. And then the pick of the fixtures will see Ajax of Amsterdam taking on AS Roma. In the fourth and final quarterfinal, Dinamo Zagreb, conquerors of Tottenham Hotspur, will take on the Yellow Submarine Villarreal. Those are your Europa League quarterfinal fixtures. And Chris, like Ole, you must be happy with United's draw.
Yeah, Manchester United definitely happy with that draw. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's ancestors really like him, but we know that Manchester United can sometimes do the unexpected and not win where we expect them to. But I think this draw definitely got in the way of Manchester United.
United certainly can be inconsistent in games where they're expected to win, but they'll be licking their chops at the prospect of taking on Granada. But they also know their route to the final, and it won't be easy in the semi-finals because they'll have to get past either Ajax or Roma. Arsenal, on the other hand, will be far happier with their route to the final because if they beat Slavia Prague, they will take on conquerors of Tottenham Dinamo Zagreb or the Yellow Submarines Villarreal. So that's a slightly easier route to the final. It makes for interesting football that will be played in the UEFA Europa League quarterfinals. But all eyes were on the big one, the UEFA Champions League quarterfinal draw. The aristocrats of European football, and what a quarterfinal lineup we've got. Manchester City, looking for their first European crown, will take on Borussia Dortmund, who are looking for their second European crown, having won in 1997. FC Porto will take on Chelsea. Chelsea will be looking at that and saying, you know what, this is the draw that we wanted. Thomas Tuchel, can he go all the way like he did last season with PSG and get to the final? Talking about PSG, they are involved in a repeat of last season's final. They take on champions Bayern Munich. It's Lewandowski versus Neymar. It is Müller taking on Mbappe. And then in another repeat of recent finals, the 2018 final, it is Liverpool who will take on Real Madrid. Remember, Real Madrid beating Liverpool in Ukraine 3-1. Controversial game, that one, in which Sergio Ramos was accused of deliberately injuring Mohamed Salah. when Liverpool was running riot in the first half. So that one will see Liverpool with plenty of motivation, but also Real Madrid knowing that they can carry on extending their record appearances, not just in the semi-finals, but if they go all the way in the competition and win it. Barry, we've got to talk about Bayern Munich and PSG. PSG will have to do it the hard way if they want to win their maiden title.
Yeah, they'll have all the motivation. They'll have to do it the hard way. And you point out that hard way being firstly Bayern Munich, and then their route to the final is a little bit of a struggle, because likelihood is that they'll play the winner of Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund. Now, that's not an easy one, because we fully expect that Pep Guardiola's got the motivation and enough firepower to get past Borussia Dortmund. So it's going to be the two toughest teams in the competition. Two of the favorites for this year's competition, Bayern Munich and Manchester City, standing between the final and Paris Saint-Germain. So for me, I think it's a really tough route, but they've got enough motivation to right the wrongs of last season.
Oh, well, guys, just enough time for me to ask you your predictions, because it's easy to make predictions when there are two teams or when there are four teams. We've got 8 teams here, and I'm not going to ask the winner, but I'm going to ask who you expect, Chris, to see play in that final in Istanbul. Barry has already talked about the route. The winner between Bayern and PSG will take on Man City or Borussia Dortmund. And then the other half will see the winner between Real Madrid and Liverpool take on either Chelsea or FC Porto. Which two teams do you think will be left standing?
2 teams left standing. This is incredibly tough, but I'm going to go Manchester City and Liverpool.
Manchester City versus Liverpool. You certainly are a wise woman. Barry Manandi, do you disagree?
I do not disagree. I do not disagree on the basis that I think that at some point Thomas Tuchel is going to be brought crashing down to earth. I fear it may be in this competition against Liverpool in the semi-final, and then Liverpool find themselves in a final.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudent. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles at home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZFM Sport.
Let's head into England now. There's FA Cup action this weekend. Manchester City, they're in pursuit of an unprecedented quadruple, and it continues tomorrow as they travel to Everton for the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. The Toffees advanced to the last 8 courtesy of a thrilling 5-4 victory over Tottenham Hotspur last time out, while Manchester City eased past Swansea City to book a trip to Goodison Park. Barry, it's a cup match, and we know that when it's a cup, form doesn't count for much, but these two teams are almost polar opposites in terms of their form at the moment. Manchester City on a really good run. Everton is on a bit of a losing streak, especially playing at home. So do we read a little bit into the form here?
We do, because it's a home match against the team that's top of the table, the champions-elect in Manchester City. So Everton will have that in the back of their heads. And as you quite rightly point out, Everton have lost 3 of their last 4 home matches. So that's going to be also playing on their heads. Yes, it's cup football, but you're playing a formidable foe in Manchester City. So I see the Toffees going into this with a bit of trepidation, but they're well capable of sneaking a result, and that's exactly what it'll be, sneaking.
Mike, Barry talks about the fact that the Toffees may be going into this with a bit of trepidation, and justifiably so, but on their day, Everton presents a bit of a challenge even for a Manchester City side.
Yeah, especially if you consider that this is a cup game. And, you know, teams always raise their intensity. They always try and apply themselves better in a cup game. They also know that they've got they don't have realistic prospects to win the Premier League title. And their chances of qualifying for the Champions League are also probably quite slim. So they want to give it a go in the cup competitions. And that's where almost the playing field becomes level, because it comes down to your performance over 90 minutes. And they'll be hoping that they can put in a big performance. But how they start in this game is critical. They'll need to score first versus Man City. That's the only way you can force Man City to try and rush the way they play, to try and get them to take more risks, to throw more men forward. As long as you try and sit back and you think you're going to become structured and rigid and try and block them, you know, the low block that they talk about in football, sooner or later, Man City is going to pick you apart and they're going to create the chances that they need to score. So I think Everton is going to try and play front foot ball, try and get a goal, try and force Man City to get out of the conventional way that they do things.
Force their hand. That's the only way that Everton will be able to come against this machine of a Manchester City side. There's more FA Cup fixtures this weekend. Bournemouth versus Southampton, Chelsea versus Sheffield United, and Leicester City versus Manchester United. Barry, taking a look at that Manchester United side yesterday, Paul Pogba giving them a boost. This is bodes well in the way of Manchester United, but Leicester City also plays some very brilliant football.
They do indeed, and so this match is an absolute coin toss. Don't know which way it's going to go, because Manchester United can turn up and can get a result even when they don't turn up. We saw it in the San Siro yesterday. Paul Pogba, quick goal. Leicester City, good performers, good team. Who knows whether they'll be able to put the tactics together to beat Manchester United. It's going to be an interesting one, this one.
Interesting one, and definitely one to look out for. Premier League, there's some action this weekend. Fulham takes on Leeds United. Brighton will be up against Newcastle. West Ham versus Arsenal, and Aston Villa versus Tottenham Hotspur.
A quick dip into France, where Paris Saint-Germain head to Lyon on Sunday for a pivotal game in Ligue 1 title race, with Mauricio Pochettino's side having been thrown off course by poor performances and off-field troubles. PSG were stunned at home by struggling Nantes last weekend, and 2-1 defeat at the Parc des Princes, condemning the reigning champions to back-to-back home league losses for the first time since November 2012. Lyon themselves are tricky customers. They are looking to upend Paris Saint-Germain. Chris, you got to say to yourself that this one again could go either way, but if PSG turn up, then they're well capable of beating Lyon.
They're well capable of beating Lyon, but Lyon's have been having a good run of results, not necessarily because they play particularly fantastic throughout the match, but they're able to get the wins where they need to pick them up. And coming against a PSG side that's patchy, good some days, bad some days, I think Lyon will fancy their chances here.
So this one should be an interesting one to watch. Other key fixtures out of France: and Etienne takes on Monaco, while Dijon takes on Stade Reims. Lille versus Nimes. Let's dive into Italy quickly, where it's 5th versus 6th when Roma hosts Napoli, with both tied on 50 points on the table. They clash on Sunday and close out the Serie A program. Match day 28 it is. Despite their position, Roma have been sinking down the standings of late. Napoli, on the other hand, have been on a good run, which includes 1-0 wins over both Juventus and AC Milan. Michael, Italy hotting up. It looks like Inter have all but done the business, but the jockeying and tussling underneath them is going to be entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Inter, I think, have got a 9-point lead over AC Milan in second, and even if Juventus win their game in hand, it will be a 7-point lead. So safe to say the Scudetto could be heading to the blue half of Milan. But the jockeying, Barry, for Champions League football is where the football is at, because everyone right down to Lazio in 7th have got realistic prospects of actually ending up in those Champions League positions. And this game is critical, because if Roma lose this one and Napoli win it, it means that Napoli now would consolidate their position in and around the top 4. Remember, Atalanta occupy the 4th and final place. So there's everything to play for in this game. So both sides, no doubt, will go in search of 3 points.
So if you want to watch an entertaining game on Sunday night, Roma versus Napoli is where it's at. Other Serie A weekend fixtures: Parma versus Genoa, Crotone versus Bologna, while Spezia, who entertain Cagliari, Hellas Verona versus Atalanta, Juventus versus Benevento, Sampdoria versus Torino, while Udinese host Lazio. Fiorentina takes on AC Milan.
Lots and lots of big games out in Europe, but there is arguably the biggest game in the world. South Africans will tell you this weekend is the Soweto Derby. It's Kaizer Chiefs entertaining Orlando Pirates. Before we get there, let's give you the pick of the fixtures out of Spain and Germany. Athletic Club of Bilbao will take on AIBA. Atletico Madrid will entertain Alaves. The big game is Real Sociedad taking on Barcelona. And if you're looking for Real Madrid, they're away at Celta Vigo. In Germany, Arminia Bielefeld, they'll entertain high-riding RB Leipzig. Leipzig, of course, trying to chase down Bayern Munich at the top of the standings. Cologne entertain Borussia Dortmund. Eintracht Frankfurt versus Union Berlin. And Bayern Munich will be up against Stuttgart at the Allianz Arena. Let's go to Soweto, where Kaizer Chiefs forward Samir Nukovic says he is pushing to retain peak form and is targeting to spark a revival on Sunday when his side clashed against traditional foes Orlando Pirates in El Clasico at the Soccer City Stadium, of course FNB Stadium. This should be a really, really good game, Chris, because Kaizer Chiefs are a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team at the moment, playing decently well on the continent, inconsistent when they're in the DStv Premiership.
Highly inconsistent in the DStv Premiership, and they're lucky to get wins when they do pick them up. But interestingly, like you said, they're performing well, decently on the continent. So this is going to be interesting. Orlando Pirates, though, on a good run of form in their local league. So it's still a derby. This is still a derby. It's still going to be some good action.
It should be good action, Barry. Chris pointed to the fact that Orlando Pirates 10-match unbeaten run. They've been firing on all cylinders over the last few months, and you can't look past them to register another win over Kaizer Chiefs.
No, can't. And it's thanks to the consistency of their defense that is very mean. Their attack, which boasts some phenomenal talent that's run on a run of consistent form, the likes of Pule Lorch. Those players are playing at the peak of their powers. So you can't look past Orlando Pirates. Similarly, you don't really have a talisman when it comes to Amakosi. Samir Nukovic, yes, but he's the arrowhead. He needs the supply, and it's never there. So for me, I think it's a Pirates win.
Pirates win for Barry. Are you going to give a scoreline, or are you just going to stick to just a Pirates win?
Look, as a Chiefs fan, I'm just going to go with the Pirates win because it's too painful to say.
It's too painful to say. Chris, who are you backing in the derby?
I'm a Kaizer Chiefs fan, but this is definitely going to go Pirates' way, and Pirates are scoring goals, so a 3-1 win for Pirates.
A 3-1 win for Orlando Pirates. And of course, Barry talked about the likes of Pule as well as Lorch, but the likes of Hoto as well as Fortune Makaringe will also play a big part in this game for Orlando Pirates. That is the big game out in South Africa. In other games, Mamelodi Sundowns, who are riding high, they will be taking on Black Leopards at the Lucas Masterpieces Moripe Stadium in Atteridgeville. Then you'll see Baroka taking on Bloemfontein Celtic, Punya Sele, while Cape Town are away to Golden Arrows Abafana Bestende.
That's all we have time for today. We've got to go, but have a fantastic weekend, Zimbabwe. We'll catch you on Monday for our Monday review show. We call it Manic Monday. It's absolutely manic, going through everything that will have taken place over the weekend. For now, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.